Okay, I have a question. When is it okay for a game to lie to us? Because it turns out Destiny has been doing a bunch of that. So while we've been all distracted about the fact that EA is trying to screw us out of our money, it turns out that Destiny is trying to screw us out of our time, and more specifically, the XP we earn when we're playing the game. So to catch you up, the way that XP has been earned in Destiny when you're playing something like a public event, it turns out that there's this scaling system that gives you less XP the more you do these really repeatable events like public events. So every time you do one, the amount of XP you earn gets less and less until it turns out you can earn about half the amount of XP that you think you are. And you may go, well, you know, that doesn't sound too bad because I understand that they're trying to stop you from just burning through levels and getting bright engrams over and over and over again. At some point, the game needs to go, look, you can't just play only public events and burn your way through all of our content. At some point, we need to go, hang on a second, just take a breather, go outside, maybe just like pet a dog, visit your mother. You haven't seen your mother in so long. Invite your mother to come play Destiny, do a Crucible match together. So every time you finish one of these events, it pops up and it says you've earned X amount of XP. But the little bar, the little progress bar that shows you how much you're earning, that just seems to be filling up less and less. And what someone on Reddit found out is that the amount of XP that the game is telling you you earned is different to the amount of XP under the hood your character is actually getting. So an eagle-eyed Redditor called EnergizerX did a bunch of number crunching and sitting there, and I assume putting tape measures up to televisions to try to like calculus, and you did a lot of like drawing on the window, a lot of sort of beautiful mind situation, everything's twirling around, and those nice crossfades where it's like this is the passage of time, and at one point there was a map, like an old map, and there was an old plane, and it went from Europe to America, and there was a red line, and there were clouds as well. Just a lot of time was spent figuring out this XP system. So the conclusion that Energizer came to is that pretty much all of this is a lie, and that over the 3 hours of playtime that they conducted this test, they should have earned 1.5 bright engrams more than they actually did. So bright engrams, if you don't play Destiny, gives you like shaders and sort of like things, cosmetic things for your character and that sort of thing. And these are also something that you can buy in Destiny as well. So this is leading people to think, well, maybe the game is changing the way that XP is earned to encourage you to buy bright engrams. And I don't necessarily think that's true. I don't think this is some sort of money-grubbing thing. I think that the problem is more that they've built a game around a progression system. So the way that Destiny works is that there's all these hooks to make you continue playing, right? There's all these levels, you hit level 20, but that's not the end. You can start leveling up your gear with a light level, higher and higher. You can do grinding these events for different weapons and different pieces of armor and different shaders and different sparrows and just all sorts of like different shit. That's basically why we're playing Destiny, to get all the different shit so that we end up looking exactly the same as all the people who also have all the different shit. It turns out that you've built your game around this idea of numbers going up, and that's really the only thing we care about, as opposed to building it around a really core gameplay loop, which is interesting because Destiny has just a phenomenal gameplay loop when it comes to the shooting. The minute-to-minute shooting in Destiny is some of the best shooting, for my money, in video games. It is so much fun to play that game, and yet the game is really built around these numbers. So when these numbers are going up, but the numbers aren't going up as much as they really should be, then we go, well, you're screwing us on the core gameplay loop of this game. The only reason I'm playing this game is to see those numbers go up. So when you're lying to me, that's a really big problem. We look at games like Dota or League of Legends or PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and you go, people are playing these games and they're just playing the same thing over and over and over again. And obviously the outcome is different every time and the nuance within each match changes, but essentially you're just playing on the same map, you're just playing as the same characters, you're just basically doing the same thing every time. And at the end of it, sure, you may have like a ranking system that's built in there that says, you know, an MMR rating or something, that I'm better than X, Y, and Z person, but there's no real level incentive for you to continue playing. It's not like when you hit level 20 in Dota, then suddenly a bunch of new stuff opens, and you hit level 40 and then more maps become available or something. The only reason you're playing that game is just that core loop. So it's proof that it can be done. We can continue playing games just because we enjoy playing that game. We don't need all the grindy hook attached to it. And I'm not saying that grindy hooks shouldn't belong in video games, because I really like Destiny, I really like that grinding system. But the problem comes in when the game is built around this XP grind and then secretly it's screwing you to make you grind harder. And it's like, why are you lying to me? Because I'm here to grind. I am a grinder. I am here to grind myself against this game, just slowly and gently over and over and over again for days and days. That's the whole fucking reason I'm playing this game. So why would you lie about the fact that you want me to earn less XP? I already know you want me to do that. I already know you want me to keep playing this game over and over and over again. Just be transparent. So I guess it comes back to, is it okay for games to lie to us with this sort of thing? There was a great Twitter thread a couple of months ago by a game dev called Jennifer Scherl. She's German-Australian, and she basically put the call out to game devs saying, you know, what sort of stuff happens underneath the hood that players don't know about? And the response was enormous, and it was all sorts of cool stuff that we didn't know about. Like, you look at System Shock, and that the last bullet in every clip in System Shock hit twice as hard to make you feel twice as powerful in that last moment. In Spec Ops, it turns out that every time an enemy begins firing at you, their firing accuracy at the beginning is 0% to give you warning. You never just get shot out of nowhere and die. You see a bullet flit past, and then that percentage gets more and more accurate over the course of like the next second and a half for you to have time to be able to turn around and shoot that character. In the Uncharted games, when you're on something that begins to collapse, as it's collapsing, the rate of collapsing slows down depending on how far along the path of that collapsing object you are. So if you're really far away from the point where Drake goes and jumps off, then it's going to collapse way, way slower. And then when you're closer to the edge, it's gonna speed up to give you that feeling that you just made it. But every person can just make it. It doesn't matter if you sort of screwed around for a second or so. And these are all examples of games lying to us, right? This is all lies all the time, but this is fine because these lies are making us feel more powerful. The problem with the Destiny lie is it's making us feel less powerful. We're grinding, we're just grinding against these public events over and over and over again, and at some point we go, hang on a second, I feel as though I should be progressing more than I am right now. Why aren't I? That doesn't feel very good. That kind of makes me feel weak. And then you realize that the only reason it's happening is because they want you to continue playing this game, and they go, well, we haven't really made enough content for you to be able to just grind away at this game for the just dozens and dozens of months that we want you to play this. You know, at some point, it's fine to say you've extinguished the amount of content that is here playable in this game. Come back to it when we have an expansion. But no, ultimately, all devs and all publishers just want you to play their game and only their game ad infinitum until, you know, new content comes out. So Bungie's come out and said, yes, we acknowledge this, and their statement was kind of weird. They basically came out and they said that we've got this system and it's not performing the way that we would like it to, and we're not happy with it, and obviously neither are you. And you go, well, why is this in there if you're not happy with it? Why have you not spoken about it before? Obviously things slip through development and you go, no product is 100% the thing that you wanted, but it's pretty easy to just go, oh, we're just gonna turn that off. We're just gonna turn that system off, right? In the same way that EA were like, okay, you don't like the fact that it costs, you know, 60,000 or whatever credits to play Darth Vader? Cool, we're reducing that by 75%. But, oh, by the way, we're also reducing the amount of credits you earn by 75% as well. So everything kind of just stays the same. Destiny is doing the same thing. It's turning off this scaling system, right? And you go, yay, that's a victory for the little guy. Woo, we did it. The game's not lying to us anymore. Except it's gone, you still need to earn this amount of XP. So we've either doubled the amount of XP that you need to earn under the hood, or we've halved the amount of XP you actually earn from these public events to keep the rate the same. So the rate is staying the same. It's just the system that they're using is now different. And if this is how it'd been in the first place, then no one would really care. Yeah, people on boards would complain about the fact that it feels like it takes forever to grind out public events in Destiny, but that's the whole reason you're playing the game. The fact that you're on a message board talking about grinding in Destiny, that's why you're playing the game, man. Don't complain about the thing you're there for. So we come back to the core question, is it okay for games to lie to us about this stuff? I personally think that it's probably a good idea for publishers and devs to start being a little more transparent. This has been a really tumultuous year for games and game devs and publishers where it feels like we keep catching them in these kinds of lies. And I guess ultimately, it's like a lot of this could be avoided if you were just upfront with us at the beginning. If you weren't trying to hide this and make it feel as though this is something that the player doesn't need to know, when it's actually the very thing we do need to know. We need to know how much XP we earn while we're playing this game to figure out whether or not it's worth our time. Because if we feel as though that grindy game is too grindy, then we won't want to play it. And I know you don't want us to not play your game, but if that's the case, make a better game. So maybe it's a good idea for devs to actually start opening up a bit more about the way that they make these games. I don't need to know finances, I don't need to know people's salaries, I don't need to know all that sensitive stuff, but I'm really interested in the way that all the under the hood systems work. You look at early access, and the way that early access has sort of like trained us is that we start playing a game, we figure out the way that it plays and the things we like and the things we don't like, and then most of the devs of early access games are really, really transparent about the changes that they're making, because they've basically gone, okay, You've bought this game before it's officially released. You've invested in the game, essentially. Like, this is not a finished product. You bought it, and you have given us sort of like a track to be able to continue making this game with your money as being part of financing this company. So we're gonna be really transparent with you, and we're gonna say, hey, we changed this percentage by X amount, we did this or we did that. And obviously not everyone cares about this stuff, but the information is out there if you do. And so now we're seeing way more games as a service. I consider these games to be essentially like an early access game, right? Like, I am paying for the pipeline for you to continue developing and maintaining and running this game. I'm paying your server costs, I'm paying your salary costs, I'm paying for you to be able to develop more content, all that sort of thing. So I am treating myself, I guess, when I buy a game like Destiny. Sure, the single player is one and done, but the multiplayer and the grind and everything, that's my investment in the game. So therefore, I feel like as an investor, I should be allowed to know how the game is considering my time. So obviously there are good lies that games can tell. The Uncharted falling thing is a great example of going, you know, it makes you feel like a badass and you're fine doing that. There's bad lies where it's like, hey, we're not gonna tell you that the grind in this game is actually way more because we want you to continue playing it and we want you to feel as though, hey, maybe I just haven't worked hard enough and I'll just continue keep doing this, keep doing it, and then I'll finally get my bright engram and whatever, and that'll give me my little dopamine hit so that I can then do the next round and level up again. And like I said, I'm fine with grindy games. I just wanna know what I'm grinding for and how hard I have to grind. But ultimately, it feels as though, you know, some devs and publishers are just happy to do the lies, do this sort of stuff where it feels disingenuous to the player and their time and their effort and their investment and their love for your game, and they would rather just ask for forgiveness if caught rather than having a discussion with the player in the first place. And that's really weird because even though, you know, the internet can just be a terrible place, if there's one thing we love to have a discussion about, it's video games. All right, guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments. Do you want to be able to lift up the hood on all the games and see the engine and figure out how everything's working for you to make your own judgments, or are you fine for that sort of curtain to be brought down where it hides a lot of that stuff and a lot of it's really good, but then sometimes it's just like, hey, that one shady thing, it's hidden behind the curtain and we're just gonna wait for that Reddit guy to rip it open, and the dev's like, no, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Anyway, let me know what you think about the man behind the curtain. I have to grind.